Hello everyone, I am Zumie Fiasco, and these are 9 common mistakes new players make in Warzone Battle Royale. Before we get started, tell me what your favorite gun to use in Warzone is and why. And hey, why not share the details too? What attachments do you run? I want to see who has the best loadout knowledge. Click like and subscribe right now if you enjoy Warzone, and let's get started. Mistake number 1, I see it all the time, and that is underestimating the optimal drop. In Warzone, there are only a few ways you should be dropping. Number 1 is nosediving straight down from the plane until your chute deploys automatically. Number 2 is the cut and redeploy to get those further distances away from the flight path. And number 3 is the, indefinite glide to get across the map when you want to reach the other side. Now, it goes without saying, but avoiding a bad drop is in your best interest if you want to get better at winning your fights early game. Pay attention to how drops work. Find the sweet spot. If you didn't know it, there is a setting you can adjust in the game that allows you to turn off the automatic chute deployment, which is going to help you land faster than everyone else using the default setting. Something else to note that you probably didn't know in Warzone is that you can fall from about 3 stories without taking any fall damage. Because of this, guys, you don't need to be afraid to just cut your chute and drop a little early. The speed and momentum you get from doing this will oftentimes surprise you, and you'll beat out most of your opponents to the loot. Don't underestimate the importance of drops. Doing it right and doing it optimally will seriously help you win your early game fights more than you know. Now, it goes without saying, but your loot and loadout in Warzone really control your chances of survival and getting that big win. The gun loot variety in Warzone is very slim. Failing to prioritize gaining access to a custom loadout early game is a huge mistake, and the second one on the list. If you feel like you're getting outgunned way too often and your skill isn't the reason for losing your gunfights, well, you may not be wrong. It could be a result of what you're using in your fights. Let's say you're using an uncommon scar. No matter how good you feel about your aim and skill, chances are you're not going to be outgunning someone with a custom M4A1 loadout with the same skill as you. Ask anyone here. Don't get me wrong, it is possible, but custom loadouts arguably hold the highest value over everything else in Warzone. Not only do you get to use whatever gun you like best, but you get to use it at its best. On top of that, you can pick and choose your perks, your tactical and lethal equipment. It's a deal breaker. Over 75% of the guns in Modern Warfare aren't even in Warzone Battle Royale for you to just find on the ground or in loot crates. You're only hurting yourself if you're not taking the time to build a class that best suits your playstyle for use in Warzone. And I would argue that it should be the first purchase of every game you get into, aside from maybe body armor. Armor in Warzone is a necessity you feel like you can't go without, right? You just play better fully armored up with that peace of mind knowing you can take a few shots if you need to. Well, guess what? Even though it is a necessity, every single other player out there feels the same way. You need to get past this way of thinking as soon as possible. Why? Well, because mistake number 3, and one you do not want to make a habit of, is becoming too confident when you're fully armored up. Headshots eat through armor plates like a hot knife to butter. For this reason, if you get the drop on an enemy, don't play it safe with guaranteed body shots. Take the chance of securing the fast knock, chaining up those headshots. Just because you have 3 full armor plates secured snug in your vest, it doesn't mean you aren't a few shots away from landing flat on your back. To put it more simply, be the laser and don't get lasered. Going into every fight with this mindset and at least considering it in any given situation will put you on the winning end of most engagements, I promise. Having a surplus of loot is typically a good thing, right? You can never have too much ammo, carrying an extra lethal is always nice, and having that stack of 5 armor plates is great. But the one thing you should never hoard or save is cash. One of the most common mistakes new players make is saving their cash. There is always something your cash could be getting spent on to help you get you and your team that much closer to a victory. Self-revive kits, UAVs, and gas masks if you don't already have one come in clutch, just to name a few. Mid to late game, if you aren't looking to spend your money, you're hurting yourself. 10 G's isn't going to get you anything or do anything for you on the last few circles when all the buy stations are gassed out. Don't be afraid to blow through your money. There are a plethora of ways to make it back, and chances are, when you're buying those UAVs and those Killstreaks, you'll be getting more elims in turn, which also generates more cash. Just like the old saying goes, you have to spend money to make money. With the pace that Warzone runs, you cannot afford to slowpoke it and hold out on spending. Maintain good comms. Pay attention to what your teammates have and don't have. Drop some money for them if they need extra armor or a self-revive even. Just remember that saving your money does nothing for you in-game except remind you that you could have and should have spent it. So when you're short on cash, do you ever get lucky and come across killstreaks or field upgrades in loot crates or off enemies that you've eliminated, like a random UAV or stopping power rounds? What do you typically do when you find them? Do you hold on to them and try and wait for the right moment to use them? Well, if you do, I hate to tell you this, but that is yet another common mistake. Now, you may want to argue this one with me, but answer this question first. How many times have you picked up a kill streak or a field upgrade and then simply dropped it at a later point because you wanted to buy something else at a buy station and it ends up getting replaced? Or do you find something better after eliminating an enemy player and same thing, you drop it and trade it? The point I'm trying to make is, as soon as you find a kill streak or a field upgrade, use it as soon as possible, and sometimes right then and there. As I mentioned earlier, the pace of Warzone is simply too quick to be worrying about these things like when or how you should use it. I can understand patience and planning because Warzone BR is definitely a game that relies heavily on strategy, but don't let overthinking and planning be the reason that you don't use a kill streak or a field upgrade, because chances are you're going to end up swapping it out at a later point anyway. Things are becoming more and more transparent in Warzone. Players are learning new things every day. One of those things is the importance of contracts. Ignoring contracts is a very basic common mistake. I would argue if you aren't participating in at least 4 contracts per game, you are playing Warzone the wrong way. The pros of contracts outweigh the cons tenfold. The benefits of completing contracts are just too good to miss out on. Benefits like cash rewards, XP towards rank and battle pass tier unlocks, various enemy positions shown on the map, free armor and gas masks, future zone locations getting revealed, and so on. The cons of contracts are that they take a little bit of your time to complete, and sometimes you can be on the bad end of a bounty target contract, but apart from that, you should be doing these every chance you get. Your chances of winning will be significantly increased, cash will be less of an issue, and if you're broke, a couple of contracts could be the difference between you finishing the game solo and bringing back an eliminated teammate to get the win. Speaking of eliminated teammates, how many of you out there struggle in the gulag? Okay, you keep this next mistake in the back of your mind and make an effort to avoid it, you'll get more wins in the showers, I guarantee it. That mistake is camping in the gulag. You can argue strats with me all day, but hear me out. In the gulag, the main objective is to eliminate your opponent or capture the central flag objective if the fight reaches overtime, right? Well, camping is a surefire way to get yourself eliminated for a few main reasons. One, chances are when you enter the gulag, the opponent you end up facing will have a teammate doing callouts for them. I say that because typically in Warzone, when one person gets eliminated, the rest of their team follows suit soon after. If you get caught flat-footed in your spawn hugging a wall, your opponent is going to make you pay for it because their teammate is in their ear telling them exactly where you are. 2, even if your opponent doesn't have someone to do callouts for them, they will 9 times out of 10 get better positioning to capture the objective in overtime if you are holding back and camping. They can even bait you out for the flag. Number 3, your chances of tagging someone when they sprint and side jump at you are very slim compared to their chances of tagging you while you're standing still and camping. You need to play with confidence in the gulag. As soon as you overthink your movement or stand still because your nerves are getting to you, you're dead. Tacticals come into play, you risk getting stunned, flashed, taking a Black Ops 2 PTSD C4 to the dome. You get what I'm saying. You need to be aggressive. Hit your shots and play like you already won the fight. Don't let insecurities cloud your thoughts and decide your goalie fights, and don't camp. Here we are at common mistake number 8. I'm stoked you're still here, tuned in, and hey, if you're enjoying the video, consider hitting that subscribe button because there is more content coming very soon for all things Warzone Battle Royale, and I'd love to see you around. Okay, mistake number 8, relying on gatekeeping versus early rotation and positioning. Riding the edge of the circle in Warzone in efforts to get a win is a high risk for not all that great of a reward strategy. Dropping somewhere far away on the map, looting safely, and gradually moving inwards in time with a closing circle to safely get to the later game may seem like a viable strategy, but it's not a consistent, reliable one. Compared to other Battle Royale games, zone mechanics like Fortnite Storm or Apex Legends Ring, Warzone's gas is no joke. Playing to the edge of the gas is like playing on the edge of a cliff. Fights are unpredictable in Warzone, and the time they last varies drastically. So much so that it's hard to ever really predict how long you will spend fighting. When you are on the edge of the gas, being forced to rotate to the next zone all while fighting another team, your chances of winning are a lot smaller compared to holding strong zone positioning, picking off players from a distance with no worry of the gas biting at your ankles. Not to mention, all players holding these strong positions get free shots at you and other teams that are fighting while they try to rotate in to the new zone. The team in the better position 9 times out of 10 gets an advantage when making the push for the next zone too. Sure, you may get lucky on the edge of a zone when a new one is established if it rotates to your team, but most times being in the power position early will always be in your best interest when playing Warzone. Here we are at the last common mistake on our list for today, and even though it may come off as simple, it is just as detrimental to your gameplay. Playing passive. When you see enemies in Warzone, to put it bluntly, be aggressive. Warzone is hugely psychological, and a mirage of gunshots can be enough to spook enemies into leaving cover, panicking, and even losing out. It's so much easier to rush enemies than to hold a position in most cases. If you're smart with cover and lines of sight, don't be afraid to pop off shots and send it. Maintain good comms and ping your targets, keep your teammates updated constantly on what you're doing, just don't play scared. Of course, you should take your gear into consideration with each engagement. Based on what you're running, make your opponents fight your fight. Regardless of how you play, you need to play with the mindset that you are better. Just imagine that every other player is waiting for endgame and trying to avoid you. They're scared. Don't be passive like them. Don't be the passive team that just sits and waits for death to come knocking. Be the team that dominates, has the best loot, and bullies their way to the best positioning to get that dub. Alright everyone, this has been 9 common mistakes new players make. If you have any advice for fellow Warzone players here today, be sure and drop it down in the comments below, and don't forget to tell me what your favorite gun in Warzone is and why. I hope to see you all in the next one. Later.